Yeah,
people.
once I like I fell down and like ripped like part of my head open, and my mom, like, she didn't want me to take the drugs or whatever to, like, I guess make me feel okay while they're fucking stapling my head. So and I was kind of against it too. I'm like, I don't want to take any drugs, you know what I mean? Because I was so young. I was like, I don't know, I was like 8 years old or something, and they just start stapling my head, and it hurts so bad. I don't think of anything that's hurt so bad. Like,
Yeah.
whenever a doctor says recommends you to take some drugs before they go through something, make sure you do it, especially if you're getting staples, dude, because it really did feel like they were actually stapling my fucking head, and
Yeah, they
it
are.
hurts so bad. Yeah,
I
exactly.
got my
That
head
was-
stapled up as well.
You did. How'd that happen?
Yes. I fell out of a shopping cart when I was younger, and you know those things you like hang items on at, say Walmart. It sort of juts out from the wall. That like ripped the top of my head open. Like I sort of went head first into that, and it like started here somewhere, and like just dug a trench in the top of my fucking head when I was, I don't know, 4 or 5, something like that. I can remember it. I can remember like being with my grandmother, my mother, my aunt, and my little sister. I'm not sure what city we were in, maybe Athens, Georgia. But we were in a Kmart. I remember that much because that was a thing back then. And I remember them having me in the bathroom and like freaking the fuck out, looking at my head. And then I remember like going into surgery. I remember the anesthetic.
How old
and
were
I
you
remember
again?
what 4 or 5. And I remember the dream that I had under anesthetic as like a 4-year-old. There was a black man. All right. It's total darkness. I'm in a void with a floor. It's just you can't tell if the room is 100 feet wide or infinite or infinity. And there's a bright light coming from straight up, straight down, illuminating just where we're standing. And I'm the only one standing there. And there's an old black man in like a cartoon style bird cage, the kind that's flat on the bottom and comes up and, you know, like folds together like Tweety would be in a cartoon. And this black man is up above me, standing inside this bird cage with light coming down around him and spilling down onto me and illuminating me. And he's telling me everything's going to be okay. And that was the dream that I had under anesthesia as a 4-year-old, but I can still remember it very clearly.
It's weird how stuff like that happens. Like, do you have any memories from when you were young, like 6 or 7 or whatever, where like you were at, say, like, I don't know, like a hockey game. Like I was at a Blues game or something, and like I saw something, like a guy spill a beer intentionally on another guy, and you just, in your own head, almost cognitively, you're like, I will remember this.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like you imprint it, and then years later, like even now, it's like, well, fuck, like I still haven't forgotten that. Like I was so young.
It's because you
I
bring that
still
up so
remember it.
often. It's because you bring that file back up so many times in your brain that you're tricking yourself into thinking that this is a long, old, forgotten memory. Not forgotten, but an old memory. But what it is you're just recalling every other time that you've pulled that file back up in your brain and reinforced that memory. And you know, big memories are like that. Sometimes they don't seem big, but they had an impact on you on that day. I totally know what you're thinking about or describing, because there's all these little innocuous events from childhood, whether it's 5-year-old me, 8-year-old me, 12-year-old me, where I remember like a day or half a day, and I'm like, why am I remembering that day? What was so important about the day I went over to that guy's house and everybody was in the backyard in that above ground pool?
Those
and,
spheres are stored closer to the control panel. And I learned this in Inside Out. And they're core memories.
Sure. Okay. I haven't seen Inside Out. I think maybe it's a cartoon and you're mocking me.
Oh, that's the one where all the little gremlins are up in the brain being like, oh, we don't want to do that.
It's actually a really
yeah,
good
okay.
movie.
Another cool representation of how our brains work, if you ever read Stephen King's Dreamcatcher, or you watch the movie, which isn't quite as good with
Yeah,
Morgan.
read the book.
Yeah, the movie's good too. The book is better. I read the book after I watched the movie, and I was like, ooh, I like this. I have archetypes in my head for what these characters look like. I know what they look like. You're not Jonesy. The way that they visually show off the inside of this man's brain in the movie is pretty interesting. I like that.
My daughter cut her head open like Kyle did. So I pulled up a picture.
Of her head?
Nope.
Oh.
This is a park bench. And so I was playing ice hockey. This is, she was like 3, I think. And there were a bunch of these benches kind of in like a waiting area, not far from the rink. And I guess my wife was letting her climb on the benches. It's not like there's anyone else on them. And she fell over and she hit her head on the edge of the like concrete arm. For people watching or maybe just listening to the audio, it's a regular park bench, but the ends of it are concrete. Anyway, it split her skull open. No, her skin open on her forehead, like to the skull. And you could clearly see the skull. Like, you know, people are like, oh, you see bone and you see something white and it's probably bone. No, dude. You're like, oh, so I guess that's a human skull right there. You know, like it was just, and she's a little 3-year-old, cutest thing with all this red flowy hair. And like, we were really concerned about the scar across her head. They had a pool at this hockey rink too. So the lifeguards came over and gave her some pressure and the ambulance came. And when we got to the hospital, we waited for a plastic surgeon rather than just having her like stitched back up. There was a lot of attention given to whether or not we beat the kid. Like they had like, I don't know if they had special services come over, but we were definitely interviewed like separately almost, you know, like to see if the stories matched and what the scoop was with that. And they stitched her forehead up real tight. And for like a year and a half, they didn't want any sun on it. And we had to like put vitamin E or whatever, like to make sure it healed as good as it could. So like there's a section of all of Hope's childhood pictures where she's wearing a hat in every single one of them. You know, she'd be outside swimming in a pool with like a big sun hat on, you know, just looking
I bet
silly.
she's very thankful at this age that you took that very seriously at the time.
Yeah. When she was like 10, it was like, oh yeah, you can't really see it anymore. At 17, like I haven't even thought about it in years. Like you can't see it.
When I was 5, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
When I was 4 and my sister was 3, I whacked her in the head with a fucking gardening hoe. And
As you do.
and you know, they got a plastic surgeon and fixed that all up.
I did something like that too, except it wasn't on purpose. It wasn't malicious. To my younger brother, we were at a friend's house having a pillow fight, very, 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 very close to, I would say too close to the fireplace. And
I see where this is headed.
I smacked and I got like a collateral damage style hit. I was large for my age. I was probably like 8, and I hit my friend and my younger brother.
Bearded.
And yeah, my younger brother just like turned in direction and slammed his head right on the corner of the fireplace, and it was at a friend's house. And so of course anytime a kid's hurt at a friend's house, that parent's like, oh my god, we're gonna get in trouble and everything. They're freaking out, like calling my parents and everything. And I remember having to go to the hospital and sit in the room while they stapled his head. And the way you guys describe it, it sounds like you got a lot of those. So I think this was not as bad. It was only like maybe 6 staples. I don't know what a lot is, but I had to sit there in the room while they were like, oh, settle down, no, be quiet, to my younger brother. And they just, which I obviously they get rid of most of the pain, but as a child, having staples put into your head with a bunch of adults looking at you with fear in their eyes, kind of frightening. In a way.
Dude, we were like, you mentioned the friend's house. We were like 26 or 27 or something. We had these little kids. Hope was our little kid, but we had a friend group who had kids Hope's age. And every so often we dropped the kids off at like one parent and everyone would get a night out, you know, without kids. So it's our turn to watch everybody's kids. And couple number 1 comes by, drops off their boy, everything is cool. Couple number 2 comes by, and we're all friends, right? It's like a friend group. And they pick up couple number 1's kid, and they throw him in the air like a dad would do, but the ceiling fan is on. And like it just cracks the kid in the head. And we're all like trying, like, how fucked up is this kid now? Like this is a baby. You know, and we're like, do we take him to the hospital or pretend it never happened? Those are the choices.
Pretend it never happened.
That's what we went with. Yeah,
pretend that like, this guy.
When I was like, okay. Go on.
When I was like 15, maybe 16 or 17, somewhere in there, I stood up out of my bed, like I'm gonna get out of bed and I'm like go somewhere, but like for whatever reason, like my bed was always pushed back into a corner or something. I popped up out of bed, stood in the bed, and sort of like was gonna like take 2 steps, hop on the floor, and then sprint through the living room and out of the house or whatever. I stood up into the ceiling fan, which was turned on though, and that blade hit me flush in the side of the head and hit me in the top of the ear. Like it caught my ear like right in the top quarter of my ear. It dropped me to my bed with so much pain. I can still feel that pain right there in that ear. And I remember laying there holding my whole head and going, and thinking to myself, I couldn't feel it very well or tell what I was touching because my whole ear was red hot and numb from the pain. But I remember thinking, like, I have a cauliflower ear now for sure, and I haven't fucking ever stepped foot on a goddamn wrestling mat. I'm gonna have one of those ugly fucking cauliflower ears, and I wouldn't even know what I was fucking doing in wrestling. Like I'm gonna look like the guy, and I'm gonna have none of the skills that come along with looking like that. And I was just laying there in my vanity and pain, and just rocking back and forth until it stopped.
That makes me think of. Like, those ear injuries can be bad. One of my friends to another one of my friends gave him, when we were like 11 or 12, like a complex about his ears. So my buddy, we were all in the pool hanging out for a day, and the rabble rouser among us, like, one of us is like, I was obviously big for my age as I was. The other guy was like, you know, normal size guy, and the third guy, our friend, was very, very small at his age. Like, he teeny tiny, did like looked like he was an 8-year-old almost, but he was our age, like 11 or 12. And we were all in the pool, and the guy to the really small guy snuck up behind him while he was like shooting baskets, and with both of his hands like open, gave him like a real ear boxing, like a whap. And that is like I've never had it done to me, thank God, but it's like apparently one of the most disorienting, like makes you feel sick because your equilibrium's off. Like, it's just horribly painful and awful, especially
an eardrum.
Yeah, I don't remember if he said, you ruptured my eardrum, or if that was like him playing it up in later years as we retold the story. But from this day, every once in a while, when we're all hanging out, we're all, 25, 26 years old now, we will still make little gestures to like touch his ears, and he will like get
He's like the retarded brother on There's Something About Mary.
It's not like a, hey, watch it, you guys. Like, I remember the joke. It's like a, don't you fucking touch me. Don't fucking touch my ear. It's funny to watch, but it's just funny. Yeah, it's just funny.
That's fucked, man. I bet that would hurt so goddamn much to get boxed in your ears like that.
You just think, I'm going to give him a goof. And but
yeah, on that friend topic where you guys are saying, like, your friends are getting hurt and stuff. Well, I had a friend when I was like 9 years old. He went to my house every single day. He was like my best friend. And and we were just playing around once in my backyard. And I took up like one of those big snow shovels, like those ones that are like metal. And I just picked it up. And I don't know, we were just joking around, just goofing around. And he ran into it, right? So he hits his lip pretty badly. And then he hit his gums really badly. And his gums, like, were bleeding everywhere. Like, it looked like he was gonna like bleed out or something. It was the most disgusting thing ever. And I've never had a friend's dad get so angry with me, like, because his dad came over and I was trying to explain to him, like, it was not my fault. Like, your son ran into the shovel. And obviously afterwards he tried to tell all my friends, he's like, oh no, he hit me with the shovel. And we had this big debate for like the rest of high school where he always used to, tell my friends that I hit him with a shovel when I was younger. But I know that I just picked up the shovel. He ran into it. And his dad got so angry with me, he literally yelled at me, like, even worse than like my dad used to yell at me. And my dad was really fucking harsh with that stuff. And he yelled at me so badly. Like, I never felt so horrible for doing something to someone. But he eventually recovered. It took him a couple years, though. He had a pretty fucked up mouth. He actually fucked up his teeth, I think, for the rest of his life. So I feel really bad for that. I kind of stayed away from him afterwards. Like, we were best friends.
Maybe someday you'll have the means to go back and pay for his teeth or something like that.
I mean, it wasn't my fault, though. I just picked up the shovel. He ran into it. I know what happened, okay? He's trying to make me think I hit him with the shovel, but I didn't. But I feel like I actually did fuck up his teeth for the rest of his life. And I kind of feel bad for that. But
yeah, I kicked the kid's tooth out in, like, I don't know what grade we were in. I came down the slide. This dummy was trying to go up a slide, like crawling up the slide, and I'll be honest, 6 or 7 year old me didn't have to kick him in the mouth, but there was this little flash in me that was like, I'm going the right way. I have the right of way. All right, so like, you have fucked up, sir. And so I just gave him the double like Power Ranger thing right in the face because he was in my goddamn way, and I wasn't gonna smush into him, and he never got that tooth fixed, and it was a permanent. Like
permanent.
I saw him years later, and he still had that tooth gone. Like it was still, and it was like this one.
Poor Jeremy.
I had a thing.
I said I kicked a tooth out, not I got him on the ground and stomped his mouth. Like the mashed potato on his fucking orthodontia.
Did he get his feet?
I had a
teeth
thing with
fixed?
like teeth, like when I was losing them. That like when I discovered it was a thing that like, oh, you're losing your baby teeth, and I saw all my friends like losing their teeth faster than me because I was like a few months younger in the grade, and that matters at that age, like the months when you're losing them almost. And I was always thinking, like, if I lose more teeth, it'll mean that I'm growing faster. And so I would take teeth. Like, there were always the kids in class who'd be like, see this tooth? And it'd be, like, hanging by a fucking thread.
Yeah,
and they just would
put it in their
refuse to
nose.
tear it out. Yeah, like, you just easily pull it out. I was the opposite, where I'd be like, oh, that's a little bit of movement. That's a little bit of movement. I basically forced and tore out all 4 of my front teeth here at, like, age, I don't know, 7 or 8 because I was like wiggling them so hard. And so many of my pictures as a young kid, they'd be like, there's Taylor when he's young, doesn't have any teeth in the front. There's Taylor a year later, still no teeth in the front. Those probably wait about a year or so. Here's Taylor a year and a half later. You can start to see that peak coming down from the front. Like, it was very, very
real soup connoisseur in your younger years.
No, just a side mouth chewing, you know.
That's hilarious.
That's funny. Yeah, we used to find fun, like creative ways to like get them jerked out. You know, string around the tooth, and then let's tie it to something. And we did a bottle rocket once. We did cars.
A street hockey, and then you shoot your own tooth out. That's the way to do it.
It's like a lot of fun. Yeah, anything like that. You know, so slamming the door, of course.
Model rocket.
Yeah, we did a model. Yeah, we did a bottle rocket, like a big one. Yeah, and we did definitely did the car one time.